Welcome to the Progress Texas Happy Hour.
Welcome back to the Progress Texas Happy Hour. I'm Executive Director Kathleen Thompson. Every now and then, everyone will need a good lawyer. And when it comes to voting rights and community impact, it's a good thing that the Brewer Storefront is serving Texas. The Brewer Storefront is the community service and pro bono arm of the national law firm Brewer Attorneys and Counselors, established more than 30 years ago to provide high-level legal advocacy to individuals and organizations who otherwise wouldn't likely have access to such big law resources. The Brewer Storefront specializes in community impact litigation, cases intended to change laws or change systemic issues, and they have two national offices in New York and Dallas. From the founding Dallas office, Ian Shaw, president of the Brewer Foundation and an active contributor to the Brewer Storefront. Ian, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Kathleen, for having us.
And also from the Brewer office, Josh Harris, whose focus lands in commercial and financial concerns, and in some instances involving multiple tens of billions of dollars. Thank you, Josh, for your time as well.
Thank you, Kathleen. Happy to be here.
Additionally, Josh and Ian were both just named to the 2026 Super Lawyers Rising Stars list in Texas. And congratulations to you both on that important recognition.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it. Thank you.
The Brewer operation is and has been engaged in important legal advocacy work across the United States, and we're going to get to that. Let's start, though, with the history of the Brewer Storefront. How did it get started, and how has its mission and impact developed over the last 3 decades? And Ian, would you go first?
Sure. So back in 95, when Bill Brewer and John Bickle, because it was at that time it was Bickle and Brewer, they were in court one day and saw someone that was being litigated against, and they saw that it was the pendulum had swung in a complete opposite direction, and the person who was being litigated against was being kind of pounded upon by other litigators. And at that moment, Bill believed that it was time to help people who could not afford the legal services at the high level that we provide here at Brewer. So after that, since then, it's been an ongoing mission of the storefront to not only provide community impact and high-level advocacy for people who cannot afford the resources or the legal advice and counsel from the litigator boutiques such as the Brewer attorneys, but also provide the resources and the education for people in that same position. Almost fighting for the little person who doesn't have the voice. We are helping those people get those voices.
And we've been able to deploy the storefront in a number of different ways. It has expertise in voting rights cases, but it isn't just voting rights cases that the storefront focuses on. We also will represent community members that are in disputes. We have developed a specialty in elder fraud cases, as well as employment discrimination cases, and some other areas of the law. The storefront can be very helpful for impactful members in the community like Shirley Isenhusen.
And will you tell us, Ian, you go first again, please. Tell us about the practice areas and some of the past cases, like you're just mentioning here, Josh, that the Brewer Firm Foundation and Storefront have been involved in. And for those who aren't lawyers, share about what does community impact litigation mean?
Sure. So community impact, starting with that, community impact litigation is essentially working with or litigating cases and taking cases on that actually have impact within the community. For example, a business suing a business may be impactful in terms of jobs or the money of the business, how the business goes, but community impact litigation will be litigation dealing with how, for example, a community will be impacted if there is a landlord-tenant, for let's just use an easy example, a landlord-tenant and a landlord not providing proper resources and proper leases to residents. That can affect a community of people trying to get in the apartment space, right? Trying to get rentals. That is community impact work. And to kind of go a little bit further, the work that we've done regarding the Civil Rights Act is community impact work. The work that we've done, what Josh talked about earlier with elderly fraud, is community impact work because that's affecting a community of people. Our voting rights work is working for a community of people, a community that likely does not have the resources or the voice to fight these systems that have been in place. and we come in and we aid those and help make sure those systems are fixed. And our advocacy allows for that. So some of the cases, for example, Josh mentioned earlier about Shirley Iverson Newsom, which he handled, and I'll let him talk about that one. But my very first case as a storefront employee, back when I first got barred, was helping a African-American woman who got wrongfully terminated and racially discriminated against with American Airlines. And we were able to resolve that case under the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Then there are cases where we are dealing with the community in terms of the Voting Rights Act, where we do the at-large voting systems. We will get to that later. But some of the other cases in New York, for example, Jim Shoe Repair is a small business, but a very long-standing business. I think it's been around almost over 50 years. And we helped them against Dwayne Reed, which was a massive, I think Dwayne Reed actually was bought out by Walgreens, but it was a massive, almost a landlord-tenant issue where they were trying to push Jim Repair out of their rental space. And we were able to come in and advocate on behalf of Jim Shoe Repair. Again, that's a small business, but affecting a large community of people, not only their employees, but people that are long-time goers of Jim Shoe Repair.
And in addition, I would say that I think back on a case that the firm and storefront handled before I got to the firm, which had to do with the number of community members in California that had their insurance premiums raised unilaterally. So they had life insurance, and the life insurance premium in year one was $50, and then by year 5 it was $570. So much so they couldn't afford it. So the storefront came in, actually represented a class of individuals, went to trial, and got a great result for those plaintiffs in that case. And that's really the ethos of the storefront, to identify issues that community members are having and to provide high-level legal services and advocacy to ameliorate or eliminate that issue. And sometimes that doesn't actually involve filing a lawsuit. The storefront will send out demand letters and other kind of pre-litigation tactics to try to eliminate certain disputes that community members are having. And so that's something that we really focus on in the storefront, is just trying to focus on what are the large issues that people in our community are facing, and the ways that we can use our litigation skill set and toolkit and resources to help those individuals solve those issues.
And to that point, to what Josh is saying, that also, the reason why the storefront is also extremely successful and special is because for that community work, we have to be in the community, right? We have to be in the community, talking to people, understanding the issues, learning the issues, meeting with community members, meeting with community people, and asking what are the issues. And that's big part of our job, is making sure we're in there. I know Bill always says that it's a difference being in the ivory tower than actually being on the floor. So we pride ourselves in being actually in the community, learning about those issues.
And our Dallas listeners, or maybe listeners across Texas who know Dallas, will know where your storefront originated. Would you say something quickly about the actual storefront that first started all this?
Yes. So it was in we had an actual physical building off Martin Luther King Boulevard.
And we operated in that space for 10 to 15 years. We rotated brewer, attorney, and counselor lawyers through the storefront. And we had intake employees and community members would be able to come into the space and talk about their issues and get the legal services that they need. And me and Ian are excited to get back to having a physical space, likely in 2027 in South Dallas.
Let's bring listeners back up to speed about one of the Brewer Foundation's recent challenges. And listeners and folks are going to remember the Keller ISD case that was in the news about possible split of the district. You all brought the case against Keller ISD. Would you talk to us about why you took on the case and what you can share about it now?
Sure. So we had identified what we believe to be a voting rights issue, a system that was kind of negatively impacting Keller ISD students' abilities to kind of elect the candidate of their choice in Keller. And we were concerned with what we view to be a discriminatory split of Keller ISD into 2 districts. So we filed a lawsuit. The court has dismissed the lawsuit, and we are actively appealing that. But I think the most important thing about the Keller ISD case is that we were trying to implement cumulative voting. Cumulative voting is an electoral system that is provided by the Texas Education Code as a alternative to an at-large system. And effectively, what a cumulative voting system shakes out to be is it allows for, if you had a slate of three trustees that were running for the school board, one individual will be able to take 3 votes and vote for one, or take 2 votes and vote for one, and take 1 vote and vote for the second person. So it allows for an individual to concentrate their votes on one person, which increases the likelihood that they get the trustee of their choice in the school board.
Can you speak to how you feel your action brought against Keller ISD resulted in the end of the conversation of a split of the district that really was like a railroad track line? Can you talk to us about the victory there, that the worst outcome didn't happen?
Yeah, so I went to law school to get a bar card to be able to protect people that I feel like can't protect themselves sometimes. And looking at diverse students in Keller ISD and seeing how the plan was put in place to split Keller ISD, and then I believe it was called Alliance ISD, we just believed that it made sense to bring a case to prevent that from occurring. And when we filed the suit, within a month, the board announced that it would no longer pursue the split. So it felt like the effectuation of the reason that I went to law school and why I've been practicing law for so long.
Pivoting from representation and education to another focus for your firm, which is strengthening and protecting Texas voting rights. It's a dedicated practice area for the firm and a specific initiative as well. As you're well aware, Section 2 of the National Voting Rights Act is currently threatened by the pending Supreme Court case, Louisiana versus Calais. And listeners, would you please go back an episode or two to our podcast with Progress Texas Institute Board Chair and Civil Rights Attorney Louis Bedford for a deeper dive in this case. But for our guests today, the firm has defended Section 2 before. You've reformed election systems and attempted to increase diversity and accountability as the law requires by this federal policy. How is the firm addressing voting rights battles today elsewhere outside of Keller? And specifically regarding Calais, how can we protect equal representation for Black and Brown voters in the South?
So to directly talk on Calais, one of the things that the firm is really focused on is the ability to bring intentional discrimination claims as opposed to VRA Section 2 claims, depending upon how the order comes down from the Supreme Court there. And we'll be able to kind of deal with the impacts of that decision, which will be forthcoming. So I think focusing on intentional discrimination claims to kind of get to the same place is one of the focuses of the storefront. Just generally, though, the storefront has taken a massive pivot with respect to its view of what is the most functional kind of electoral system for districts and municipalities to be pushing for. We believe that with respect to vote dilution, especially here in Texas, that a cumulative voting system is the appropriate electoral system to eliminate or to lessen the issues that we're seeing with respect to vote suppression. And to, I discussed this earlier, but the cumulative voting system allows for one individual to concentrate their votes depending on how the slates are set up onto one candidate, which increases the likelihood that they're able to elect an individual of their choice.
And for your second part of your question, I think of what can we do today? I think a big thing is, and what the storefront, what our job is to do, right, is to educate. And part of what the foundation does in terms of education with children, but that same ethos and that same mindset of educating people about voting, educating the community about what it means to vote, why it's important, that's the basis, and that's kind of like the number one. But also in terms of when you talk about voter education, you talk about what people can do. I think it's important that when you are educating, you have to explain to people the actual idea behind the vote, right? So if I'm voting for a school board member, why is that important to me? Well, because I have 2 children. Currently, I have 2 boys. I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. So in DISD, because that's where I live, voting in DISD on a school board is important to me because I have 2 boys that are in DISD school system, right? And I think when we're doing education and educating people about this, it's important that we give them why it's important and we give them why it's important to them. I think a lot of times we just say, hey, voting's important and you should go vote. And a lot of people kind of are disconnected to that, especially with the polarizing issues going on now, where, there are a lot of people that are just kind of distant and disconnected from voting and disconnected with politics. And we have to get back to the idea of not polarizing the topics, but more so being very intentional with how we're educating people about it. And one thing Bill always says is it's not about what's left of what the left side says, not about what the right side says. It's about what is right. And that is the key. What is right? And then for voters, right? What is right for you? Is it because I'm live in Dallas, the ISD, so it's important for me to know about the city council. It's important for me to know about the county commissioner. It's important for me to know about school board. But for someone in Collin County, it's not important for them to learn about the ISD, right? But it is important for them to know about their local elections. And that is what I think we need to get back to. Depolarizing the actual topics and be more intentional with educating people on why it's essential to vote and what you're voting for. I think that's what the storefronts behind the in-court part, right? Because we have the litigators going in court. Outside of the courtroom, in the community, that's a big mission of ours. And that's a big part of our job to do that.
For our communities to thrive, we have to have a solid bedrock founded on equal rights, the protection of freedoms. We've discussed the equal voting rights and quality education. Public schools right now are being defunded and censored, which of course puts marginalized, lower income Texans, Black and Brown students at further risk. I'd love to hear from you about how the Brewer Foundation is providing direct resources that set students up for success, in addition to your casework with other cases or outside of casework.
Sure. So the Brewer Foundation, we have a program called the Future Leaders Program. It's its 25th year anniversary this year. And it is set up, we have a private partnership and a public partnership with DISD and a private partnership with St. Mark's, Hockaday, Green Hill, and ESD. And the Future Leaders Program is set up to give children a chance from Southern Dallas. And I'm a product of Southern Dallas. And what it does is it provides an academic enrichment and leadership program. And every Saturday, students are bused from Southern Dallas to one of these private schools, and they get an academic enrichment curriculum. And in each class, there is a private school teacher and a public school teacher in it. And that curriculum, coupled with the exposure that we provide, we take students to New York for college trips. We take students to the Bush Center. This year, 2 weeks ago, we had our full session at the Frontier Flight Museum, learning about, these are the type of things that the resources that we provide is what we have seen through our work is what separates the Black and Brown students from their peers, their white peers. It's the resources and leadership. And with that, we provide both with the Future Leaders Program. And in our 25th year, we've seen the data show that if the student gets the opportunity and gets exposed to an opportunity, they thrive in that opportunity. And our job at the Future Leaders Program and the foundation is to make sure we provide that opportunity with the resources and the leadership that we have.
And there's a number of examples of individuals in our community that have come through FLP, and it's been life-changing for them. Ephraim Vera, who is an associate at Reed Smith and went to NYU, Albany Law School, Millennium Gate Scholar, right. Just an amazing person. We have Erica Salazar, who is a junior at Northwestern, excelling in school, Alfredo at BU. There's just a list of individuals that are Questbridge scholars, Millennium Gate scholars that have come through the program. So not only are they being exposed to opportunities, they're also getting counseled on how important it is to focus on getting scholarships. And we have people on our staff like Val Curry who are committed to ensuring that each one of our students in our FLP program, it applies to as many scholarships as possible and tries to ensure that when they go to college that they don't have to pay anything out of pocket. So they don't have any loans.
Wow.
It just jumpstarts their ability to be successful kind of individuals in society and hopefully move back to Dallas and help Dallas keep going.
Incredible work. And tell me about your work with the International Public Policy Forum.
Sure. So the International Public Policy Forum, IPPF, is our other signature program under the foundation. So we have FLP, the Future Leaders Program that I spoke about earlier, and we have the International Public Policy Forum. And what IPPF is it's a one of a kind global debate tournament. So teams from all around the world come and debate a complex policy issue. So what makes our tournament unique is we have usually debate tournaments, people go and orally debate a topic, right? So you have teams from all over, you come in, you debate the topic all day, and then you figure out they find out who the winner is in the end. Well, with IPPF, it's a written symposium first. So you get a topic and you research it, and then there's essays. You write about the topic via essay first, and then you submit that essay. And then as the graders grade the essays, if you think of March Madness, we narrow it down from this year we had 335 teams submit. It was a record-breaking year for us submitting essays, and we narrow that down to the Elite Eight. And the Elite Eight, we fly to New York to compete for $10,000. Wow. This year, for our 25th anniversary, we're hosting at NYU. And what makes NYU Law School, and what makes this special is the art of civil discourse has been lost.
Isn't that the truth?
And we're teaching students from high school ages about the art of civil discourse, how to argue and advocate for your point, similar to what Josh and I do here, but on a level of debating policy issues. This year, our topic's about the global education crisis and what the G20 can do about it. So this is, and this skill set being used is further from just debate, right? Because you're looking at written work, you're looking at researching, you're also looking at advocating for both the affirmative and the negative. So all of this is centered around, again, going back to our mission with the foundation of advancing education equity, we're giving students from all around the world an opportunity to compete at no charge. And we had teams from Rwanda apply, Slovakia, teams from all around the world get in this competition. And I think it's important because once you are in the competition, you don't have to be a part of a school. So a lot of teams who don't have high school debate programs can still join the program. You can get 3 of your friends together and you guys can form a team and enter the program and you can debate this topic. And that's where I think it's important too, because it allows students to be involved in such a robust way of a global policy issue and a very complex issue at that. And you're arguing and advocating for your side via essays and then able to come to New York to orally advocate for it. And that's what IPPF is.
The only part that I would add that I think is really, really special that I really like is it gives students from across the globe exposure to other students from across the globe. So we may have a team from South Korea come in, one team from Highland Park, Texas, a team from Mount Vernon, New York, all there, and a team from Europe. And they all get to kind of see the contrasting styles and learn about each other and meet each other in a space that is encouraging them to make the best arguments and then to respect the other arguments and absorb it and to come back, which is the iterative process that you would go through if you become a lawyer in the American judicial system.
What a wonderful opportunity to break down barriers and to help our young people become effective communicators about the issues and the realities that they care about. We are recording in the final days of Black History Month, and it's clear that the path forward to a truly multiracial democracy with equal rights and freedoms requires a holistic approach to serving our communities. So your firm and foundation are addressing different aspects of Texans' lives. We've talked about voting rights, our children's education, and so much more. As we close out, will you share about how you each personally feel the firm and foundation are working to give back in Dallas and across Texas, and why your work is really making an impact?
For me, I can speak anecdotally. For me, I've been with the firm since I was 16 years old. And it's been life-changing for me because, again, Future Leaders Program students from Southern Dallas, I'm from that neighborhood. And for me to get the opportunity and exposure I was able to get working for the firm as a male guy first, and then moving my way up to now running the storefront and running the foundation, to me is the example of what the opportunity can provide, right? And I think what we do from the foundation side, speaking with education, because we believe education is the cornerstone to economic mobility, us making sure that Black and brown students are getting those opportunities, getting those resources, creates a more robust environment, a robust economy for the city of Dallas and for Texas. And it hits home with me because the storefront work especially being off Martin Luther King, where I used to play basketball in Little League, it hits home for me because the storefront and the community impact, the community work it does in Southern Dallas is something that can change communities, right? The impact that we have having bar cards can literally change what communities can look like, what communities can be, and what members of that community can be. And we're seeing now in the political kind of realm is that because everything is so polarizing, we forget that there are things that we can actually handle without having to go too far out of our tentacles. We can go within the community and help. And I think our storefront and our foundation do that. And we've been doing that for 30 plus years now.
The one thing I'll say as a recent dad, I just had my first son last year, is the biggest issue that I've been able to identify since I've lived in Texas is that if you evaluate the Texas education performance data, there is a huge disparity between the performance of diverse children and their Anglo counterparts. And the only reason that disparity exists is because highly capable individuals haven't focused enough resources, time, and attention on how we can eliminate or at least mitigate that disparity. And so one of the things that we do here at the storefront, aside from representing community individuals, is we're spending a considerable amount of our time on how can we work with community stakeholders to ensure that diverse children get the same education in Texas public schools. We're talking in Dallas, we're talking in Houston, we're talking in El Paso, that their Anglo counterparts get. And that just takes time, energy, and effort. And that takes partnership on both sides of the aisle. This isn't a blue issue or a red issue. This is a Texas issue. And as someone who lives in Texas and intends to be in Texas for the rest of his life, I want to make sure that I'm spending at least a considerable amount of my time to make sure that our public education system is preparing Texans to take on the future so that Texas can continue to be kind of the land of the free and the home of the brave.
As a Texas mom and public school parent, I really appreciate everything that you both just said. Is there anything else that we didn't cover or anything else that you'd like our listeners to know, or any resources you'd like to point our listeners towards?
I would just say that I would like to tell the listeners that I love Progress Texas as a platform.
Thank you.
Progress Texas is really doing a great job of shining a light on very important issues that people across Texas need to be aware of, and really helping individuals in the community with awareness on central issues regarding voting rights, politics, and how to access the system, the voting system, in an appropriate way to push society forward. So wanted to extend kudos to Progress Texas from the Brewer Law Firm.
Agreed. Couldn't say it better. I think, Kathleen, you've done a great job with building this platform, and since the moment we met you've been on the ball with all the issues on the right side of things, and also trying to make sure you get the word out of helping Texas be more informative, and more educated about the issues. So from the Brewer Storefront, the foundation, and the firm, we really want to thank you for not only having us, but doing the work that you're doing.
Thank you both. I appreciate it. And it's been a pleasure getting to know you both and to know your important work. Ian Shaw and Josh Harris of the Brewer Storefront, such an important resource. Terrific work that you're doing. I really appreciate your valuable time and the great role that you all are playing in Texas.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Our mission at Progress Texas is to improve and save Texans' lives by acting on our shared, bold, progressive values. And that starts with countering the billionaire and corporate-funded conservative disinformation machine. While we enjoy the support of hundreds of partners, chances are that you, dear listener, haven't joined the team yet. So if you're a regular, please join us right now as a sustaining monthly supporter at progresstexas.org. Also, since the new year, Progress Texas has devoted coverage and advocacy to the issues that you're passionate about like no other outlet, and giving you direct access to the candidates in the biggest races in the country, Texas legislative, countywide, and federal elections. Join us as we work to raise $14,000 in February. Whether you give $35, $100, or $500, any contribution brings us closer to our goal and ensures Progress Texas can advance our Project 2026 plans, which include a new Spanish media initiative and the expansion of our radio footprint across Texas. Learn more at progresstexas.org/donate. I'm Kathleen Thompson for Ian Shaw and Josh Harris and the whole team. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.